Demand need not exist before supply, as humans can be convinced into a need. Supply and demand can only be considered true and natural laws when speaking of basic subsistence, such as a fixed amount of people and a fixed amount of food which nature yielded that particular season. They become merely quasi-laws in today's economic complexity because the demand decisions of the people can be artificially implemented by marketing propaganda, incentives, and price altering. Price itself is mistakenly looked at by some as a measure of relative scarcity, but withheld knowledge creates an illusion of scarcity when in fact there is plenty. Thus, the entire system is based on illusions. Therefore, any economic analysis is also illusory to varying degrees. To maintain this faulty system, it must be constantly monitored and meticulously altered by the proponents of the banks and the need suppliers so as not to allow its overdue collapse. Production and prices are therefore set to limit the market and maintain animation of this long-dead machine for the gain of only the need suppliers, the very reason for the insanity of paying farmers to burn crops. The control of these prices directly controls the people by controlling their decisions, which are based on those prices. Unrestricted free knowledge makes one less susceptible to faulty elements of this system, such as the need for employment. Employment results in wages and unemployment. Wages empower only the bank, which holds the payroll money of the merchant, increasing its own loaning power. Unemployment is something to be feared only in societies whose people are so specialized that they are incompetent in all tasks but one. Thus, they are incapable of surviving without the help of the system when their specialized task suddenly becomes obsolete, which is the unfortunate destiny of the majority of pointless tasks in today's insane world. In the individualistic society, these problems do not exist because of the knowledge of self-subsistence. One needs not to work for another because one is generating all of one's needs by oneself. One works only by choice and interest, employment being sought and business being wrought because of the love of a particular thing, such as electronics, airplanes, engines, etc., not for material gain out of desperation. Knowledge alone negates the need for employment, thus negating the need for unemployment welfare, which taxes society. Employers only encourage limitation in man by encouraging specialization of labor and cause it to become even more specialized by rewarding the individual with the higher output. The money paid out by the employer remains the same as his production efficiency increases because of increasing one worker's wage while a less efficient worker is terminated to compensate. This increases the strength of only the employer because of the greater efficiency had for the same cost, and weakens the masses because another is unemployed who is too specialized to sustain himself, thus taxes society to sustain him. Specialized labor further tends towards waste when a specialist has completed all tasks. He is then out of work. Therefore, either the employer will create unnecessary work to maintain this individual, or the individual will initially never allow the work to be complete by slowing his pace, or will create faulty works in need of constant repair. Thus, the infamous slogan of materialistic waste is born: job security, the direct result of specialized labor. If none of this can be maintained, the individual is laid off and without self-sufficiency now taxes society. Thus, the supposed benefits gained through specialization are lost in its many tendencies towards waste. The specialist may be superior to all in just one task, but is impotent in all others. The well-rounded laborer is inferior in any one task, but capable and aware of many. The individualist sees a virtue therein. The sum total of all of these known tasks allows the practitioner insights and understandings which will not appear in the strictly specialized individual, granting the potential for higher solutions. The specialist in a meaningless task has a meaningless knowledge, useless in one's own personal evolution. Thus, focus on simplifying tasks for less training time breeds deeper ignorance in the individual regardless of time saved in training, which yields only profit to the company. Specialists, no matter their degree of mastery, will never improve the quality or purpose of an object which was poorly engineered or conceived. It matters not how perfect the specialists craft and assemble to the plans. The product will be simply a rapid and efficiently produced piece of junk. Many of today's products are examples of this, an endless sea of entirely meaningless, useless, unnecessary garbage, contributing nothing to humanity, pushed upon them as a need, leading society further astray from their true priorities, while wasting the lives and minds of those who specialize to create them. The individualist realizes that most normal human beings will inevitably find one particular task especially enjoyable, a love. It is these paths which the individualist is encouraged to pursue specialization in and none other. Specialization pursued in love creates an artist. Hence, both well-rounded understanding and artistic specialization are needed to keep an individual free from alienation to the endless methods of production, creating high enthusiasm as a direct result of free, unrestricted knowledge. Production in the individualistic society will therefore be controlled by the desire of an informed people, so high production will not be a relevant factor to measure the success of their system, as focus upon production in terms of time neglects time used for more important things such as enlightenment of the individual. High production of useless things is waste and failure to the Creator and the society. Most material goods of necessity are self-made by the knowledgeable individualist, removing the need for many merchants, except for those few true lovers of a trade. These are true artists, and not just in the business for the money and control it may provide. All workers of the individualistic society are capable of shifting to self-subsistence and creative pursuits at any time. Therefore, abundance does not cause unemployment in the individualistic society as it does in the present world. It causes an influx of time to the entire populace, resulting in additional inspiration and innovation from forces which will later be explained in detail. In the discussions below on economic systems, a publicly owned means of production is described as owned by the people, not by the state or by the government. These latter two phrases were meant to mean the same thing as by the people in their original systems because those systems have governments of the people in their ideal forms. However, this slight, seemingly harmless alternate definition injects fatal flaws, allowing an entity separate from the people to control these important things, thus deviating from the true intent of the original systems, thereby not practicing the system intended regardless of public claims. This small twist in the definition and intent of the system is exactly what has demonized the good intent of socialism and its archetype, communism, twisted by power-mad tyrants so that now the very use of the titles of these systems sends fear and hatred into the beholder. It must be clear that the individualists do not defend the totalitarian governments of the past who falsely claim to utilize these systems in the name of tyranny. The individualists simply present the true noble intent of their ideal forms to shoo away darkness falsely connected therewith. The individualists aim to show the misconceptions of each of today's economic systems and bring them all into equilibrium, especially exhibiting how each can be perverted to a system of control simply by slightly distorting their definitions or mass understandings of their definitions. Individualism realizes that each system has a kernel of truth as well as a kernel of ignorance and attempts to extract the good of each system and compile it into a universal technique of individualism by clearly defining their synthesis so as to be incorruptible. Once again, by the people and by the government were intended to define the same group, but now the latter speaks of an entity separate from the people. Beware of these twists. The individualist defines them all as by the people, meaning exactly and only each and every individual in the entire society, bar none, and far from publicly owned, as in the sense of purchased stock.